This is Softwareable Bytes. Hello and welcome to another episode of Softwareable Bytes. This is the show where I read to you articles and blog posts on subjects like software and cloud engineering and architecture, site reliability engineering, DevOps, and everything in between. If you are looking for software and cloud development services and training, check out softwareable.com. We help customers in their software and cloud journey, whether it's taking software from ideas to complete solutions, migrating existing systems to the cloud, or mentoring and training individuals and teams. We make it work for your needs. Go to softwareable.com, that's software without the E, IBLE.com to learn more. In today's episode, I'm reading an article titled Google's State of DevOps 2021 Report, What SREs Need to Know by Quentin Rousseau of Fruitly.com. Google's State of DevOps 2021 Report, What SREs Need to Know by Quentin Rousseau of Fruitly.com. The 4 key takeaways of SREs from Google's State of DevOps 2021 report. SRE and DevOps deliver the best value when used together. Culture is key to avoiding burnout. You need the cloud more than ever. These are among the main takeaways from Google Cloud's latest Accelerate State of DevOps report, which examines how companies are using DevOps practices. Based in part on a survey of more than 32,000 professionals, the 2021 report, which was compiled by the DevOps Research and Assessment, DORA, identifies best practices that DevOps and SRE teams can use today to achieve operational excellence. The full report is 45 pages long. It's worth a read if you can spare the time. But in case you can't, we've pulled out the most important takeaways for SREs, who have much to learn from the DORA findings, even if the official focus of the report is on DevOps and not SRE. You don't need SRE or DevOps. You need SRE and DevOps. Probably the most significant finding is that DevOps and SRE aren't an either-or proposition. Although some folks conflate these domains or assume that one is more important than the other, Google says modern organizations need both SRE and DevOps. SRE and DevOps are highly complementary, and our research demonstrates their alignment, according to the report, which added SRE drives DevOps success. Granted, it's not exactly surprising that a report from Google would emphasize the importance of SRE. Google is the company that invented SRE and published a series of books to help popularize the concept. It makes sense for Google to encourage businesses to embrace SRE. On the other hand, it's not as if the report argues that SRE is more important than DevOps. It says that businesses need both types of roles. You could interpret this as a recognition by Google that SRE alone doesn't cut it, which is kind of a big deal. Security drives reliability. In some ways, there is a tension between SRE and security. Maximum reliability does not always translate to maximum security. Interestingly, however, the 2021 State of DevOps report concludes that reliability outcomes are much better when organizations bake security into their reliability processes. Elite performance that met or exceeded the reliability targets were twice as likely to have security integrated in their software development process, Google's reports. The lesson here is that it has become more important than ever to reconcile reliability with security and DevSecOps. You can't attempt to prioritize one or the other. Finding ways to achieve both through a common process leads to systems that are as reliable and secure as possible. Multi-cloud and hybrid cloud enhance reliability. SREs may not think of cloud strategy as a core part of their job responsibility. That's a task that more commonly falls to cloud architects. But simply encouraging their organizations to leverage more reliable cloud architectures can be one way to improve reliability, according to the State of DevOps report. While enhanced reliability is not the only reason why more and more organizations are now expanding into multi-cloud and hybrid cloud architectures, increased availability was the second most common reason for adopting one of these strategies among the professionals whom Google surveyed. The report also noted that organizations with multi-cloud or hybrid cloud architectures were 1.6 times more likely to meet or exceed their performance goals. The takeaway here for SREs is that although having more clouds to manage creates new reliability challenges in some respects, the data clearly shows that multi-cloud and hybrid cloud lead to better reliability outcomes in the long run. It's time to let go of your single cloud. Culture should encourage reasonable risks. The report devotes considerable discussion to culture and its role in shaping organizational success. Although the report doesn't explicitly link culture to SRE, one finding that will interest SREs is that high-performing organizations are more likely to have a culture that encourages employees to take calculated and moderate risks without fear of negative consequences. SREs can do much to help their companies build this type of culture. They can encourage blameless postmortems. They can also maximize maintainability in order to ensure rapid recovery when someone makes a mistake. One way to think about your role as an SRE, then, is to devise ways to encourage your organization as a whole to take moderate, calculated risks without worrying that the world will end if something goes wrong. Conclusion. Again, we encourage you to check out the complete State of DevOps 2021 report when you have a moment. But in the meantime, think about how SREs can integrate the DevOps and security teams, encourage cloud innovation, and build risk-tolerant cultures as a way to bring greater value to their companies. You just listened to Google's State of DevOps 2021 report, What SREs Need to Know, by Quentin Rousseau of Rootly.com. The 2021 Accelerate State of DevOps report by Google is really worth the read, and if you can spare time to do so, then by all means do. I think the article laid out some of the notable points that would be of interest to SRE, and I would like to add a couple more. It's recommended to use open source software as stated in the report. we recommend that you shift to using more open source software as you implement your DevOps transformation, and that elite performers are 2.4 times more likely to leverage open source technologies. Another quote, teams that leverage modern operational practices outlined by our Site Reliability Engineering (SRE) friends report higher operational performance. Teams that prioritize both delivery and operational excellence report the highest organizational performance. DORA even added a fifth key metric for operational performance to the existing key metric list, and that fifth one is reliability. That goes to say that SRE and DevOps are complementary. Elite performers are 2.1 times as likely to report the use of SRE practices as their low-performing counterparts. And finally, teams with high-quality documentation are better able to implement technical practices and perform better as a whole. They are 2.4 times more likely to see better software delivery and operational performance. Alright, let's check the tool of the day. When you create a Kubernetes resource, let's say a pod, Kubernetes adds a whole bunch of internal system information to the YAML or JSON that you originally authored, including metadata such as creation timestamp, the missing attributes with their default values, additional system attributes created by admission controllers such as service account token, status information, etc. If you try to kubectl get on resources you have created, they will no longer look like what you originally authored and will be unreadably verbose. kubectl neat, which is today's tool, removes clutter and cleans up that redundant information from Kubernetes manifests to make them more readable. Besides general tidying for status, metadata, and empty fields, kubectl neat primarily looks for two types of things: default values inserted by Kubernetes object model and common mutating controllers. You can install it using the crew plugin manager by running kubectl crew install neat. Search for kubeneat on GitHub or find the link to it in the description of the episode. And that should do it for another episode of Softwareable Bytes. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you here again in the next episode.